Biden, among other things, is considering issuing preemptive pardons that would protect potential targets of a criminal investigation by the incoming Trump administration. We've talked so much on the show about a Trump DOJ's pretty much open commitment to going after certain of his rivals and enemies. It was interesting that Biden came out and said, I am thinking about doing this. Do we know who might be at the top of that list for preemptive pardons? And do they want them? Because getting a preemptive pardon from the president suggests that you might have done something wrong.
This has been a huge subject within the White House and on Capitol Hill. And it really did, as I understand it, originate from Capitol Hill. There are a lot of members of Congress who are concerned that the way he often frames it is, this person should be investigated. Now, I just want to point out, because Trump's people often do, he told Meet the Press, that he wasn't going to direct the DOJ on what to do. Mm-hmm. And maybe that will be true and maybe it won't be true, but it almost doesn't need to be true because they know what he wants.
Right.
So, and they know what he'd like to see done. So these folks are worried about being targeted for, trying to hold Trump accountable for things like trying to stay in office after losing an election, or
you're talking about Liz Cheney.
Liz Cheney, for instance, or Benny Thompson, who co-chaired the J6 committee with her, or Anthony Fauci, who is a top infectious diseases official in government for decades.
Including during the Trump administration.
And incurred a lot of anger for his coronavirus era recommendations. People can take issue with some of the recommendations without suggesting he somehow committed a crime. And that's where that leap goes. Mm-hmm. But if you accept a pardon, you are acknowledging some level of wrongdoing. And these folks generally don't believe they did anything wrong, number one. Number two, the challenge for the Biden White House is where is the line? Where do you stop?
Biden also made a fascinating admission in this conversation with USA Today, and it was this. Although he believes he could have beaten Trump had he stayed in the race, which we'll never really know the answer to, he said he's unsure. He acknowledged an uncertainty that he would have made it through a second term. That's a big thing to acknowledge, Zolan.
I thought that was his most clear acknowledgement of what many Democrats had been fearing. One thing I would often hear is it's not necessarily that he's 82 years old. It's what happens when he's 86, what happens at the end of a second term, and does he have the ability to fully carry out that service? And here you saw him acknowledging that concern as well. I also think he was speaking to, we've been reporting a lot on just Biden's sort of mood and his mindset in these final months. And there's been frustration. He does believe that he had the ability to beat Trump if he had stayed at the top of the ticket. He's also very reflective right now, and I think the USA Today interview, showed that he's in this period where he's reflecting on his long career, but also thinking about what could have been if he hadn't dropped out. But to be clear, I mean, most polling does throw doubt on the fact that he had the ability to beat Trump.
Can I just make one point real quick, Michael, in terms of what Zolan is saying? He is reflecting, but he's reflecting on what he believes he was denied. He's not reflecting on mistakes that he made or how the White House handled questions about his age or the fact that, large numbers of reporters were attacked on social media and elsewhere for raising questions that were taking place in front of their eyes.
Right, about his age and ability.
Right, and to deliver the statement of, yes, I could have won, but who knows if I can't say for sure if I could have served the whole 4 years, that's a pretty astonishing statement. So,
David, is that an admission of irresponsibility on Biden's part? You've covered this presidency for its entirety. To suggest that you might not be able to fulfill the obligations of President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief, for a full term, but that you were determined to do it anyway, it borders on raising serious questions about judgment.
It sure does, Michael, because it raises the question, when, Mr. President, did you come to that conclusion?
Before or after you decided not to run?